you, Mr. Chairman. First, let me just state for the record, today there were approximately 38,000 people in immigration detention, which is 4,000 more than what DHS is funded for, and roughly what the Trump administration averaged in fiscal year 2018. The Biden administration has also significantly increased removals, quite frankly, in ways that many in my caucus worry violates due process. Since the end of Title 42 last year, the Biden administration has removed or returned to Mexico close to 500,000 individuals, including over 78,000 individual members of family units, including children. The total is nearly equivalent to the number of people removed in all of the fiscal year 2019 under the Trump administration. So I don't believe that that's an open border. But let me just say, Mr. McClintock, I do agree with you on one thing. And that is we need somebody to lead our country who follows the law. Our previous president, just to remind everybody, has 4 indictments with 91 charges, all of them felonies, all of them felonies. He's been indicted more times than he's been elected. And just recently, he was ordered by a jury of his peers to pay $85 million for defaming a woman who he sexually assaulted. So when we talk about following the laws, let us hope that somebody who has such disregard for the law and such disregard for our Constitution never gets anywhere near the White House. And while we're on the subject of Donald Trump, Mr. McClintock, he said, and this will give you an opportunity to distance yourself from or condemn the statement. He said, and I quote, immigrants, he didn't distinguish between legal immigrants or undocumented immigrants. He said immigrants poison the blood of our country. Would you agree that that's an offensive thing for?
If that's what he actually
That's what he
said
said.
in the context that he said
He
it.
did.
But I
And
found
you know who
over
said
the
that?
years, I found over the years
And Hitler
that how
said,
he's,
that's a quote from Adolf Hitler as
what
well.
I found over the years is what he says and what he is quoted as saying are two very different things. So
okay.
I'd be
All right.
very
Yeah.
It's on
skeptical.
tape, for
Yeah,
Christ's
I mean, it's on,
sake.
I mean, it's like, the lang, I
take,
get
for example-
I get the fact that everybody's on the Republican side's afraid of him, but I mean, the lengths that
I'm
people
not
go,
afraid of him. I'm
the
not.
lengths that people go to defend the indefensible. But let me go into a different subject here. I've served on this committee for a long time. Maybe not best to say exactly how long, but it's been a long time. But the Rules Committee used to be a place where we showed up to really get things done, where we would discuss the big pressing issues facing our country, where we would debate how each side thought these problems should be solved, and where we'd pass consequential legislation to improve the lives of Americans. That's why it has been difficult to watch this committee turn into a venue solely for what members, even members of the majority, call, and I quote, messaging bills that don't matter. Mr. McClintock, do you know how many bills the Judiciary Committee has testified on up here since Republicans took control of Congress last year that have actually become law?
Well, if we had a president who would sign them and a Senate that would pass them, we'd have quite a few, including the toughest immigration bill in 100 years.
Let me answer. It's zero. Zero is the answer.
right. Well, that's
Not a
my
single
point.
judiciary bill that has come before the Rules Committee has become law, which is absurd because I feel like the Judiciary Committee is before us every week. And those on the other side of the dais may, are probably about to say, well, I'm cherry picking data and the Judiciary Committee is an outlier. But do you know, but do you all know when the last time this committee met on a bill that got signed into law? I'll tell you, it was 8 months ago when we met on the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and even that moved forward because Democrats were the adults in the room and actually voted for the rule to avoid a debt ceiling disaster. That's 8 months, more than half of our time as Congress wasted on, and I quote, messaging bills that don't matter. And at this point, I'm not sure if that's a bug or a feature of this for this Republican majority. And I heard you just say, well, that's if we had the president sign everything we passed here, that it would be different. Well, I will say to my Republican friends, you're not dictators yet, okay? And the deal is, the Congress, the last time I checked, is Republicans narrowly control the House, the Democrats narrowly control the Senate, and we have a Democratic president. So if we are interested in legislating and getting things done, there is a give and take. It's not my way or the highway. And as I said in my opening remark, what really concerns me, and again, I have lots of concerns about what the Senate is negotiating on immigration right now and on border security, and my concerns are different from yours, but to hear the former President of the United States and to hear members in this House say, we're dismissing whatever they do out of line. We will not even have a debate. They will have no vote on any of this stuff because, we don't want to do anything. We want to basically preserve this issue for an election matter. Mr. Naylor, are any of the bills that we are talking about today, will any of these bills directly help solve the problems that we currently have at the southern border?
No, they certainly are not, will not. They're not addressed to the problems of the southern border. Let me comment, by the way, on two things.
Okay.
Number one, a lot of falsehoods have been heard around this table today. Under President Trump, hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants were released into the country with a court date years down the road every single year. This was not a problem created by President Biden. Every single year under Trump, hundreds of thousands of people were released into the country with a court date several years later. President Biden has asked, and I've discussed this at this committee previously, has asked for appropriations to increase the number of Border Patrol, to increase the number of asylum judges and immigration judges, so that people can get their asylum claims adjudicated in weeks, not in years. And those entitled to asylum can work, and those not entitled to asylum can be speedily deported. That's President Biden's proposal. $14 billion would accomplish that. This Congress, the Republicans, will not do that. So when they talk about people released into the country for years, A, they're not talking about a new problem, what's happened under Trump, and B, they're talking about a problem that they are stopping from being solved. Let me say one other thing. I've discussed the objections to these bills, the specific objections to these specific bills. Mr. McClintock made one point, which I must disagree with. He said these bills, or several of them, by not requiring convictions, just admissions, will hasten deportations. Yes, they will hasten deportations. But we have a respect for due process in this country. The Miranda decision, going back all the way to 1961, says that you have due process, that something you admit to, just because you admitted it, is not necessarily true, depending how that admission was elicited, and that's why Miranda warnings are given to people. Nothing like that is here, and so what these bills provide for is a total negation of due process and a total negation of justice. And that's why, or one of the reasons why, they should be rejected.
No, I appreciate that. And again, I'll just close with this. I think, we do these, we routinely do these bills in the Rules Committee, bring bills to the floor that, again, are mostly messaging bills, which I think everybody's getting a little bit tired of. And every time there's an opportunity to actually do something substantive, my Republican friends walk away. And Donald Trump said it out loud. Said the part that we've all suspected for a long time, but he said out loud, basically, don't do anything. Don't do anything. Leave me this issue. Let me be able to demagogue on this issue for the remaining of this campaign season, and it maybe, a guy with 4 indictments and 91 felony charges might be able to sneak by and become president again, and I'll do all the things that I didn't do when I was president. And so he said out loud, the part that I think we all have known, and that is, you guys don't want to do anything. And I think I'm tired of it, the American people are tired of it, and frankly, it's just sad. And I hope, I'm hoping we're to get to a point when we're serious, not just about this issue, but about a whole bunch of other issues that, quite frankly, have been neglected by this Republican majority that, again, has the worst record of accomplishment of any Congress in history. So anyway, I thank you both. I yield back.